college have to do.
Okay, so looking at the TMIY Toolkit page, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You guys are welcome to follow along on your own screen if you like. But when you click that link, and if you have trouble finding it, you can also just do a Google search on TMIY Toolkit, and this should be the first result that you get. But the picture looks similar to the virtual TMIY. That's because we use the same template for it. If you scroll down, you'll see it says Marketing Toolkit for TMIY Program Years. And the three boxes are just quick navigation buttons. It'll take you to the Marketing Toolkit, Virtual TMIY, or what we call General TMIY Resources. The Virtual TMIY, if you click on that, it actually takes you to the page that we were looking at last night. So if you have trouble finding the virtual TMIY process, just come to the Marketing Toolkit and you've always got your link there. We're going to look at these two, Marketing Toolkit and General TMIY Resources, again, because the virtual TMIY is covered in a different help session for the purposes of this call. So the Marketing Toolkit, when you first get into it, you'll see the different program years that are available to you. And right now, for this fall, we have 6 program years available. I'm just going to look at the Vision of Man Fully Alive. You might recall that the first 3, Becoming a Man After God's Own Heart, Battle Over the Bride, and Revelation of the Father, are presented by Steve Bowman. And the Vision of Man Fully Alive starts what we call our multi-speaker series. And then we have 3 years with multi-speakers. So the important thing is obviously go to the program year that you're in, because many of these resources are specific to that program year. But if I click into the Vision of Man Fully Alive, it expands the menu. And you see different categories. Videos from Paradise to Stay, videos from TMIY classes. These are videos that we've received permission to put out there to the TMIY network in case they would like to use them for marketing. And many of these videos are very well done. Social media, email, texts, and best practices. The best practices haven't been uploaded yet. Jamie Gonzalez and the program coordination team are working hard to build a pretty comprehensive document there. And they're not quite done with that yet. If I'll mention that now, since I'm not going to cover it again. If you have questions about best practices before this document is done, please just contact your program coordinator. That would be Jamie, Ann, Colin, or Isaac. And they'd be happy to talk you through whatever you're looking for. And then we've got print copy assets. So we've got our trifold brochure, our bulletin insert, the bulletin ad copy, pulpit plug, and then we've got our graphic files. I'm just going to walk through and show you what kinds of things are in each of these and just maybe a couple of comments about them. But in terms of videos from Paradise this Day, for the 3 multi-speaker series, we have a promo video for each year, and then we also give you the door video. I'm not sure if any of you have seen the door video, but a lot of classes have asked if they could use that, and it's actually proven to be an effective attention getter tool, I guess is what I would say. And if you watch that video, you'll see why. Some parishes have gotten permission to show it during or right after Mass. The 2 most popular times seem to be the reflection after communion or after the final blessing. And what it does is it kind of really grabs guys' attention. And then whoever is facilitating that, whether it's the priest or whether somebody from TMIY is at the pulpit, they say something very simple like, if this video grabbed you, if this video moved you, please pay attention to that. And we'd like to talk to you at the tables. And so anyway, that's why the door video is there. And you'll actually see the door video in many of in almost all of the program year categories. The promo video is specific for each year. And that can be used to give general information and excitement about the program. And then the videos from the TMIY classes, the reason we have those is because those do a great job of talking about the impact of the program on the men. Every one of these videos really describes in a different way what men are going to get out of it. And so, you know, I'll just click one from Merciful Redeemer. If you click on that, you know, it pulls up the video for you to be able to see. You're also able to download it, etc. But that way you can just preview it right there. Moving on to social media, we've created 3 social media posts for each program year. And this is strictly a download. That's why we have that highlighted. Click to download the image. So if you click on post 1, I'm on a Mac, it goes into my download folder. And now I've got to switch my screen share real quick. There you go. I'm sorry. For anybody on the chat, I didn't see.
I just put a little chat up. How can we get permission to download and post appropriate videos on the parish websites?
So because it's available in the marketing toolkit, we've already gotten permission to allow you from our end to post those. The classes that have allowed us to put their videos online have already given us permission to share those with the TMIY network and for that network to post them. If you're looking for something more formal like written permission, we would have to go and get that for you.
Well, you're saying because they're in the toolkit, we already have implied permission.
That is correct.
Okay, that's good.
Yep. We wouldn't be putting it out there if it weren't for that. That's a great question. And thank you for being concerned about permission. We're not, you know, obviously we're not going out and stealing stuff and putting it out there for you guys to pirate.
Hey, my daughter-in-law is a copyright and trademark attorney. I've been educated.
Well done. So anyway, I just pulled up an example of what a social media post looks like for Vision of Man. Each of the program years has a unique identifying image that goes along with it. This will be the image you see in the trifold brochure, and the same image repeats throughout the promotional materials for that year. For Vision of Man Fully Alive, this image is the primary image that you see when you go into that year. So what the social media posts are is it provides you the image. Let's say you want to put it on Facebook as an example. What you do is you post the image, and then you have to put in your own text, and you can put in your own hyperlink. So what I'm going to do is jump over to Facebook. I apologize, I hit the wrong button. So this is the Paradisus Day Facebook account. Right here, where it says write a post, I'm just going to click on photo video. I don't know if you can see, but it pulled up a window for me to navigate to what video or photo I want to pull. And unfortunately, I have a lot of files in my photos, so bear with me while I try to find the right one. Here we go. Okay, so you can see that it's loading that picture for Vision of Man Fully Alive. Joe, is your parish St. Bernadette?
Well, it's actually Christ the Design. It's actually now called Christ the Divine Shepherd, but we originally registered at St. Bernadette's before the merger.
Gotcha.
And if I don't say Christ the Divine Shepherd, the priest who's running it will come after me with a flaming sword.
I really thought they got rid of those with Vatican II, but you know, it's nice to have some old tools around, right?
Oh, yes.
So here's what you do. You'd say, coming soon to Christ the Divine Shepherd Parish, you know, or whatever. You would add your own text is the point. That man is you. And then if you want to call their attention to a particular link, or if there's somebody that they need to contact to sign up or to get more information, you can put that information in there. So maybe you do the parish website. Maybe you do, if there's a TMIY page that you've created, if you want to link them right to the register page of the parish. And I'll show you what that means. I'm going to open a new browser window. I'm going to go to paradisestay.org. And up here in the upper left-hand corner, you can see find a group, register for a class. Joe, what city is your parish?
Monroeville.
Monroeville. And that's PA, right?
Correct.
So we're going to look for Monroeville. It looks like you might still be under
Yeah, we're
St. Bernadette.
registered at St. Bernadette's because that's a church we've been meeting in.
Okay. So you find St. Bernadette, and then all of a sudden you've got a page where you can send men to register if you wanted to. Now, I wouldn't suggest that you put the registration link in the first social media post. Maybe what you do in the first social media post, I'll show you another trick with a hole in it. Again, from our Paradise Stay website, you go to That Man Is You, and then Program Content. And if you scroll down, you see all the program years, but here's the Vision of Man Fully Alive. You can come here and grab the website for the video. Get out of that, there we go. Oops, sorry, let me stop that. So we want to share. If you go share mail, it pulls up the hyperlink. And then what you can do, go back to your Facebook page, and you could just dump that link in, and that takes them to the promo video for that year. So the point is, the marketing toolkit provides you the picture, but because we're dealing with over 600 parishes across the country, you get to craft the messaging. And what you do is you add your own messaging, you add your own hyperlinks, and anything on our website you're welcome to grab and use. Anything from the toolkit you're welcome to grab and use. If you have a website for TMIY at your parish, if you have a person whose email address you want them to use to contact, whatever that would be. But the reason we provide 3 posts in the marketing toolkit is we like kind of a 3-step process, right? The first one is announcing that it's there. The second one is inviting them to participate. That's where you would do the registration link. And the third one would be the reminder, hey, this starts, this week kind of thing. And all are welcome. And then you'd obviously provide the details about location or the Zoom link or whatever the case is.
Can I toss something out about email?
Sure, Joe.
Okay, I've decided that I'm not going to be using either of my or any of my personal emails for contact. Instead, I'm going to go up and create a Gmail account for our group and let the various members of a core team have access to it, just for a matter of, I'm going to say, security, if you will.
Sure.
And I just like to throw that out to the group as a thought to instead of using a personal email, create a specific email account for the group so that people are not getting your personal email.
Great. That would be an example of a best practice. We've actually done that on our end as well. And creating a Gmail account, or you can use whatever. It seems like Gmail is pretty popular now. You could use a Yahoo account. You could use a, wherever you can create an account. But as long as you have your login credentials, other men can access that also. Great suggestion. So I'm going to go back to the marketing toolkit. So that's what these social media posts are. Post 3, if I download and pull it up, you'll see, I need to change the screen share. You'll see that post 3 still carries that father-son imagery throughout. TMIY starts this week, all men are welcome. So the messaging that we have sometimes is embedded in that video. I'm sorry, that image, excuse me, and then you add your own messaging to it. Any questions on the social media?
Yeah, Brian. The actual image and the actual text, can that be updated?
Not from the marketing toolkit. Those are static. However, you're certainly welcome to pull your own image and your own text to it. And if you want, I can show you a real easy way to do that if you're not familiar. Do you know how to do that already, Charlie?
I know. Actually, what I did was I got somebody to Photoshop it, and just to put in, the start date, and if they have any questions, to contact me. But what I did was, after I was composed, I sent it over to my parish, because I don't have a social media account,
Gotcha.
and the parish does. And I asked them if they could put on there, so anybody who goes to their social media, bang, they'll see it.
Yep. And so if you've got somebody who can do that for you, that's awesome. I would say keep using that system. You can grab any image that has the permissions to be shared in the manner in which you're sharing. So there are a couple of royalty-free image libraries that you can go to. Pexels, P-E-X-E-L-S, is one that allows you free image downloads. Pexels.com. I'll type that in the chat in case. Sounds like pixels, but it's not. And another one for really good Catholic and Christian imagery is it's Lightstock, L-I-G-H-T stock.com. Now, Lightstock, I believe there are some free images, but they make you start paying pretty quickly on that, if I remember correctly. If you have other images, let's say the parish has taken images, or friends of yours or whatever, you just need to get permission to share those on the web, just to cover yourself from any liability.
The only problem I've been having is that the parish has furloughed a lot of the staff, and it's trying to get somebody in order to do it.
Right. No, that's a challenge that unfortunately exists locally. You would need to ask, how to do that, or if there's somebody who can help you with that, or if they can provide access to their accounts, which I would imagine they may not do, or the people who remain may not know how to do. So that would be a conversation with the parish. The other thing you could do, which is super easy, if one of the guys in your social media has, or your core team has social media accounts, they could create a TMIY page for your class if they haven't yet. And then, they might be willing to help with some of those posts, and, you just keep directing people there.
But I don't think there's a way I can get it to the parish's social media. I mean, they own it. Because I don't know, is there a way that I can, I'm not familiar with social media, but like their social media page, I would think they govern that.
They do.
Okay.
Or at least presumably they do. And so that would be a conversation with the staff member who's in charge of that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
One thing you could also do, I know a lot of parishes have furloughed support staff, but some of the more program-related staff are still around. I don't know if you're head of adult education or whoever the TMIY whoever's umbrella it would fall under, maybe reach out and talk to that person.
That's exactly what I did do.
Oh, you did? Okay.
That's how I got it in.
Okay. Well, I wish I had better suggestions for you, Charlie. If the person is not there, it becomes difficult. I suppose a conversation with the pastor might be possible, but then you would need two things. You would need somebody who's willing to do the posting if the pastor allowed access to the account. And then the second thing is you'd have to be careful for that person not to get bombarded with all kinds of other requests as a stopgap measure until the staff is back.
Right.
So just a couple things to be aware of. I see a chat from George Dunlap. George, thank you for that. I'll copy that and take a look at it and get back to you later on if that's okay. Okay, so we're gonna, and by the way, the social media, I use Facebook as an example because it seems pretty popular. For guys, we're finding that LinkedIn is really quite powerful. And especially LinkedIn, when you can do things that's image-based, that's video-based, along with a powerful call to action message. A call to action message might be something that says, have you been neglecting your spiritual life? Question mark. Check out That Man Is You. And then a very quick link to whatever content you're putting. So it might be the image, and then it would be a link to the website, a link to the promo video, a link to one of those other videos. We're finding LinkedIn to be really good for guys. Other social media would be things like Instagram for the younger generation, and sometimes Snapchat. Snapchat would be good for sending an image that has the text embedded in it. But again, you can't do a lot of messaging with something like Snapchat. So,
Brian, we have our group is mostly guys my age, and what I would like to target is the guys that, because associated with our church is a school, and the school has a lot of kids with parents, with fathers, and for some reason we can't target them. We're not getting them, and I don't know how we can possibly, we even, during open schoolhouse, we had guys go over there and hand out the trifolds, to them. But that's the issue. And especially now is, how do I try and get those guys who have kids, school age kids that, those are the guys I want to really target.
So that's a great question. The one thing I neglected to say at the beginning, and I apologize, and hopefully because you've read the core team manual, you guys have been doing this for a while, you're familiar with it. Nothing trumps the personal invitation. So even though we're going through this marketing toolkit, in no way, shape, or form am I here saying to you that this replaces or any of these are as effective as a personal invite. What it does is, in a day and age where a lot of people have to rely on virtual, is it helps you cast your net wider. But at some point, the desire is still for there to be a personal invitation. So Charlie, the best recommendation I can make for you based on everything we've heard back, and actually, we here in Dubuque, Iowa we have a consolidated Catholic school system, which is to say all of the individual parish schools that were around, up to the 90s have all kind of collapsed into one school system. So no matter what parish you go to, your kids can go to, any of the schools in the system. And we talked to the superintendent and said, we want to actually run a That Man Is You session out of the school, out of the high school. Our high school is called Wellert Catholic. And she was super supportive of that. We actually set up a meeting on Wednesday nights. She let us tap into the school email system to ping the dads. So we were sending TMIY messaging from Holy Family Catholic Schools directly out to the men. We thought it was brilliant. And it didn't go as well as we thought. And the reason is we were under the gun. We were behind the 8 ball in terms of timing, i.e. we started too late, and we didn't have the personal invitation as a key component of it. And that's because we were starting so late. So my best recommendation to you is to find a guy who's already in the school community who can become a champion for getting other guys involved. And when you're talking about getting the snowball rolling, because it's all based on personal invitation, if you go to a bunch of these dads that you don't know, they might be touched that you invited them. There might be an aspect of evangelization that comes through that. But having somebody that they're already in a relationship with that they know, so if Mark is inviting Michael and they've been buddies for 10 years, Michael knows at some point he has to look at Mark and look him in the eye and say, this is why I'm not going. That is so much more of a powerful dynamic than seeing anything on social media, email, etc.
Yeah,
So
some of our core team members, that's how trying to get them, but still the majority is guys like my age. Because a couple of core team members have kids in the school, and I get them to get, you know, their kids' friends, or their kids are on soccer, and he should, you know, invite others. But anyway, my major audience is, you know, 55 and older, although there are some that are younger.
So another thing that could be possible, and in your case, Charlie, this might be tricky. I'm just going to name it bluntly because of not having the experience with social media. If you get somebody who knows what they're doing with social media, you can actually serve up social media posts using keywords to target people who have a specific interest in the Catholic space. Okay. So keywords might be father, might be family, might be marriage and family, you know, Catholic, things like that. But what that does is it tells Facebook the parameters for putting your post in front of other people. And you can also geofence it. So put it in a certain geographic area. And what that means is a geographic area for users. They see the IP address at your home from your machine, and they only go to a certain distance. That's a little bit of technology. You know, you kind of have to know what you're doing with that to program that out. Sometimes there can be a cost to it. I find the cost to be minimal. It might be like, let's say $5 for each post. And again, if you do a 1, 2, 3 system, you're talking about $15, which is kind of nothing. But that would get the information in front of people. I still don't think that replaces the personal ask and having the right kind of people on your core team. But that's another way that you can help do it. And then everything else is all about touches, right? What do they say in digital promotion? You got to hit somebody 7 times with the message to make sure it's even seen, because of all of the background noise that people deal with these days, right? So I tend to think in terms of, how do you make sure somebody sees it? So if you're looking at school parents, I would talk to the principal, see if you can access the school email system. If there's a school newsletter, I would see if you could include it in the school newsletter.
We
I would
did.
make sure it's in the parish bulletin, the pulpit announcements. If there's something coming out from adult education or adult formation, make sure it's in there. Why? We're trying to cast the blanket wide enough to make sure that through all those different attempts, one of them gets noticed. And I understand that that's a lot to do, but I can also tell you that when you have that system down and when you have those things established, it just becomes a matter of feeding the information to it. It's getting those things established that takes the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I hope that's not overwhelming.
No. Several of those we've done already.
That's great. And the trick is to do it reliably, right? So it's not just the principal's like, well, hey, you know, Charlie, I put it in the newsletter last time. Well, thank you, Principal Skinner. You know, guess what? We've learned that you got to keep it going, and what we're asking for is 3 posts, or, you know, or 3 touches. And then after that, I'm not going to bother you again until spring semester starts. You know, and how you communicate to those people can sometimes make them comfortable. And, oh, well, he's not asking for this every time. You know, it's just a short window.
Our principal has been, you know, terrific. You know, she, as a matter of fact, she's a nun, and she thinks this is what they should have, and you know, she's all for it. But you know, it's just getting the guys is like pulling teeth.
So here's the other thing I'm going to say in general. You know, we've got the marketing toolkit, which helps spread the messaging wide. But the people who are going to participate, the men who are going to participate in That Man Is You, are men that the Holy Spirit has already been working on. Okay. So, and I'm not in any way diminishing the importance of the work that we do, because I'm on a core team. You know, I do a lot of this stuff myself also. But the way I think of it, I'll put it in my own terms, is that I'd be fooling myself if I thought that I was the single causal factor for a guy getting involved in TMIY. And what I've learned is that the Holy Spirit's been working on the hearts of men. Maybe it's through the wife saying, "Oh, come on, we need to get closer to God." Maybe it's the conscience. Maybe a guy's making bad business decisions or doing business in a way that he knows isn't right. Maybe he's not home enough. Maybe, you guys fill in the maybes. There's hundreds of them, right? And that's eating at him. But he's already getting the nudge. What our job is to try to connect that nudge with the action of going to that man as you. And so all of that is a foundation to say, be bold in your messaging. I wouldn't lead with, something that says, do you have the Lord Jesus in your heart? Are you concerned about the state of your immortal soul? That might be over the top.
No.
But the messaging could be, have you felt an urge? Have you felt a nudge to get closer to God? Are there things in your life that make you feel like you're out of balance? Okay, so questions that really speak to that nudging that they feel on their heart, to try to call that to their attention. I've actually I was presenting to a group, and this is fascinating, where I said, right now there are men in this group that are being called by the Holy Spirit. The guy raised his hand and said, "Brian, what does that even mean?" And it took me a while to understand what he was asking, but he was asking, how do I know if I'm being called? So I started describing what that feels like physically. I said, what that feels like is when you think about certain topics, you start getting uncomfortable. Your heart starts to race. You breathe a little heavier. Maybe you're getting nervous. When you think about, I should be doing this, I started describing it. And I said, when it comes to faith, how many men in this room have had those feelings? I swear to you, Charlie, probably half the hands went up like a shot.
Yeah.
But they
Brian,
didn't know that was the calling.
Yeah, Brian, you just described exactly how or why I got involved in Paradisus Day.
Well, say more about that, Joe.
I was basically, feeling a lack and looking. And, I ended up going with my wife to a charismatic, charismatic rally that we had locally. And a men's group at St. Bernadette's had some DVDs out with sample Paradisus Day information, and I picked one up. I took it at home, I played it, and it clicked. So I decided to go. I went. I ended up helping out running the DVD the first time I went because they were having a little technical problem. Next week I went, I was asked to be on the core team and run the DVDs.
It's incredible. And sometimes you just have to help a man understand what that sense of, I guess I'll call it uncomfortableness, in his heart is, and what that feels like. Joe, thanks be to God, you paid attention to that. Thank you for answering that call. For me, I was working for a Catholic publishing company. I was traveling 75% of the time, so away from home and family. I was feeling disconnected with my church, with my family, pretty much from everything. And my wife, TMIY came along. My wife goes, "Why don't you go?" And I did what I always did. I was like, "Oh, I don't have time for that." And the next day, a guy from the parish called me and said, "Let's have coffee." I sat down with him for coffee. He goes, "I don't know why, but I felt like I really need to come and sit in front of you and say, I think you need to be a part of this." And it was that 1-2 punch of my wife saying, "You ought to go," and now Deacon Brian Zeman sitting down and calling my attention to it. And thanks be to God, God knew that he had to really get me to pay attention. And so that calling comes to guys in different ways. All of the stuff we're talking about with promotion is really targeted towards the men who are to identifying the men who are being called. There are a ton of men out there in your communities, parish and surrounding communities, that aren't ready for it, who don't know that they need it. Unfortunately, those aren't the guys we're targeting. If you can get them, they can come. That's great. I'm not saying don't do it, but Alan.
Yeah, Brian, Alan Gosens. I know we've exchanged emails. One thing I'd like to share from our TMIY group and out to you guys and it ties in two pieces you talked about, Brian. One, trying to reach the younger guys, okay? Yeah, look at me, I got gray hair, da, da. Guys, don't take this wrong. The younger guys don't want to come to a meeting with their fathers to share in front of their fathers or their grandfathers. You are correct. The median age in our group also falls. I mean, we've got some 30-year-old guys. I mean, I've been blown away. We actually had some 18-year-old guys show up. Yeah, for one or two. They need a group that is in their age group. So it might mean you have to spin off a second TMIY just specifically for that. But first, start with if you can get one or two of the younger guys to show up. And even after the first session they showed up, peel them off to the side and ask them, would you be interested in trying to do this in a younger age group to share with men? That you're welcome at this session, obviously, but to share with men to do the same thing with men of your age. Reason why I bring that up is we've tried a couple of different times, and it was like us just trying on our own trying to do that. We recently have had a changeover of DRE, and the DRE wants to send us part of the hatched, matched, and dispatched group on the matching side, fathers who are coming back to the church because it's time for their child to get baptized.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so they're trying to put a hook out there. My first answer to the DRE was, sure, love it. Go ahead and send them the information. My second piece is going to be going back, meeting with the DRE and letting him know he's a younger guy. I need your help. And to try to get him actually to help us formulate that second group. But it has to be guys that are in that same age group. That's what we have found. Same thing as we've had guys show up that are committed singles. And they say this is more about being fathers and things like that. So again, different angles to touch the guys. But the other piece I was going to bring into this, when you were talking about the social media, Brian, guess what? The younger guys, they live it, they know it. Because what's going to happen if I try to do it, I'm going to get these acronyms flying across it. I have no idea what they mean. You know, IMHO, that's what I think. So what's IMHO? Oh yeah, in my humble opinion, you know, and I was like, what the heck? So I had to stop and think about it. And these guys won't. And to be honest, I agree with Brian, the personal reach, but if those guys, they live with it in their pocket, they get hit in the pocket, that's great. Brian, I'm going to stop talking because I know you wanted to cover a bunch of stuff and we've gotten into a lot of discussion, but I just wanted to share that.
No, that's great. Alan, where are you from?
Our Lady of Lourdes in Dunedin, Florida.
Florida. Okay,
And
wonderful.
yep, our session this year, but just to let you know, we're going to be doing both on site because the pastor is opening up the parish now, and socially separated on site, but we're also going to have virtual capability. So we'll be sending out the information, and one of our guys, instead of getting into a small group with live people in the room, he's going to go over to a side and host a virtual small group. And we always do a lift up at the end. So the plan is to have all the guys on the virtual part of the lift up at the, at the end.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
I'd like to just toss out real quick about the younger guys. Okay, what we did in our TMIY group when we were meeting in person is we had the younger guys at their own table, so that the younger guys could talk to younger guys during the breakout sessions.
That's a fabulous idea.
I'm capturing some of this stuff as notes, guys. I hope that's all right.
Yeah, of course, we only had one table of them, but still, we had young guys talking to younger guys.
So I want to
that's
respond to a couple things that Alan put on the table for us. There are guys in their own group. I was traveling once in the Chicago area, which is where I grew up, and at a Starbucks doing a little bit of work, and somebody noticed TMIY on my shirt. And they came up and they said, "Are you involved with the men's group?" Started chit-chatting with him as a younger guy. This was a younger guy who went to a group of, well, guys like us, right? Older guys, a lot of gray in the hair, whatever. Didn't feel welcome. This group had been meeting for 4 or 5 years. This person had come into the parish, was active and looking for outlets for his own spiritual development. Went to a group that had already been pretty solidified over the course of 4 or 5 years. Same group of guys, right? And everybody knows, yeah, we should welcome the new guy. But his comment got me. He goes, I was trying to enter a milieu that unknowingly was not welcome or welcoming to new people. And that stuck with me. It made me think of a conversation I had with a Catholic speaker and author, Mike Carrata, back when I was in Catholic publishing. And Mike and I became friends. Mike's a fair amount older than me, and he was talking about some of the giants in the catechetical industry that had become friends over the years, going to conferences and speaking engagements and all that. And he goes, man, I would love to just go out in the middle of the mountains and sit with those people and just, a weekend of just talking and kicking ideas around and things like that. And I said, well, Mike, I would love to be there and do that with you. And Mike and I were friends, and he knew the value of that. He used to call me B. He goes, B, he goes, here's the thing. I would love for you to be there. I know the value you would offer, but those guys don't want you there. He goes, you're not their group. And it was his way of saying, you don't have the built-in relationship with all those guys that, that they spent years making. And in a way, TMIY groups that have been meeting for a long time, this conversation with the guy at Starbucks made me wonder, are we unknowingly not as welcoming to the younger generation that we ought to be? And so anyway, it's just a question I'm posing for y'all to think about. It occurred to me, it never occurred to me that a group wouldn't be welcoming to somebody coming in, or that somebody wouldn't feel welcome, and yet that's what we encountered. So the possibility of spinning off a second group might be very feasible in a parish for those reasons. In other words, there's not just a one size fits all. I'm seeing a note that a lot of parishes in their area don't sincerely welcome new people, and I've seen that as well. So anyway, the reason why it's important to talk about all this is any promotion you do is really to grab people's attention and to, think of it as a funnel to get them into the conversation. And the conversation recognizes that this is a soul created by God, and that it's our job to help keep them in whatever way we can connected to God, right? TMIY is a process that can do that. There's a lot of other things out there, obviously, but there are some people who are being called to TMIY, and that's kind of our focus. I see George sent a message, and George, I hope you don't mind if I call this out. George says, I found social media supports our personal game plan. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that with the group?
Yeah, Brian, great job. Thank you so much for what you're doing this morning. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome.
I'm by trade, or maybe by birth, I'm a salesman. But I learned a long time ago, you can't sell somebody what they refuse to listen to you sell. And I think, we probably have all been to the top of the mountain and we see the storm coming. And I think sometimes there's strength in knowing, but there's also blindness in thinking you can convert people immediately as you run down the mountain and say the storm is coming, because people look at us, even though we're speaking truth, as we begin to realize most people, as we're seeing in today's pandemic environment, are brittle. And I think the thing that's difficult to understand or to accept sometimes for me is that I always thought everybody saw through the same eyes, through the same glasses. And one of the things that we realize in our program, I've had the blessing to have my feet in two parishes. One is in Columbus, Ohio, which is St. Joan, which is a 13,000 plus member parish. And I spent the last 5 years up in a little town, Northern Ohio, Fremont. And we've got, used to have 4 parishes down to 3 parishes, soon to be probably 2, maybe 1. The community is only 17,000 in general. So we're challenging that, but it's a very rural environment, and social media, I think Joe, you said it good, and Charlie did too. The challenge of social media for some of us, we look at it as somebody else's tool. And so, because it's something that we probably didn't utilize when we were younger, but I cautioned, I said, we're all, God warriors. And I think the thing that we want to do is we want to be We want to have and again, I don't mean to use this word, I'm probably using it erroneously, but when we use the word tool or weapon or sword, I think somebody said sword of fire, we don't want to go into battle with weak tools. And social media, gentlemen, is a very strong tool, and it's one that we have taken very seriously. And we have our own personal website, not with the parish. And yes, that has created a little bit of a challenge with the priests, because we know that the Catholic bureaucracy is one that is not taken lightly, and we balance that. We have our own website, and we're fortunate that we're in a small town, so we utilize all three parishes as one program, not just one parish with one men's group, Brian. So we have all three. We essentially, the three parishes have two priests, and so we walk that dance. We respect everybody's position in leadership. And at the same time, we know that social media, we don't use social media to go after the guys. We use social media to go after the wives. And I learned a long time ago when I was selling in the beginning, I remember I had a husband and wife team visit me. And I realized real quickly that I was doing much better presenting my case to the wife than to the husband. And what I've, and having been married over 35 years myself now, I realize, guys, that young lady or that wonderful wife that we've had is the one person who every night is whispering into the ears of our prospects, or 20 years of our prospects. And again, I'm not getting personal here, but the thing is, of our wives, most of the guys that have come to our program, their wives had very lovingly directed them towards this program. Our wives know us better than we do. We know that. And what we try to do is use social media to get the attention, not of the guy, but of the wife. And it's an ongoing, and you're right, Brian, it is seven interactions, seven relationships until we get attention, but we just keep going. So we use the social media to go after the wife. We use the website to be our update, our calendar, what's going on. We'll throw in some worldly topics to kind of stir the pot a little bit. Because we meet, our program here, we meet every Saturday morning at 6:30, 50 weeks a year. That Man Is You program is our bread and butter. We also know that when men get into a process, when we get into a program, if you stop us, it's hard to regroup. It's hard to restart. And so we keep going, and then once the winter program is done, Brian, then we start up right away, and we start adding a variety. We're blessed to have so much out there on the website that we can, again, we do it with permission. We borrow links, we talk about it. But what we've done is we use That Man Is You, and again, I'm going to say this wrong, as an excuse to gather. It's a darn good excuse, and and the way that we pitch it, I always tell everybody, we start out with the video, which is a current relevant topic video, which it is. And then when that, I get the attention of the guys. But again, social media for the wives, the website for the members, and then we get the priest at the church. We hope to get that at the pulpit, because as we all know, the pulpit has the power. Thanks, Brian.
George, thanks for that input. It's always good to hear how individual parishes are approaching those things. And I love the comment about, you've had success going through the wives, and so that's become part of your overall game plan. I think that's wise. So thank you. Guys, I realize we're about 5 minutes to the end of our scheduled session. I want to stop my role and see what other questions you have, what specific circumstances you would like to talk about. I can always, walk people through the marketing toolkit. I think it's kind of self-explanatory if you just go on the page and click around. But what are the things that are on your mind that still haven't been addressed yet?
One thing is when we have our session and after the video, we usually keep the 2 questions on the screen when we were meeting, in person. how would I be able to do that once we go into the small groups? So
You're talking about.
Yeah, can I make a
question.
recommendation?
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, this is Alan. What I did, and this is how I got another core team member who's one of the younger guys. I just asked him, please type these up in a Word file, cut and bring slips of paper, and we hand out the slips. Just as the video is finished, the leader hands out to who's going to be the selected discussion leaders of the small group, and we pass that around. We don't keep the same person as discussion leader on purpose. He's now part of our core team, and because he didn't want to really get involved, he's just there. And just by asking him, hey, I'm going to send you a link to where the questions are. If you can just type those up.
but virtually,
That's what we do. Huh?
virtually, when
Virtually?
we're in small groups, how do I
Yeah,
get
but
this?
so virtually what you can do, you can distribute if it's in a file. So it's in a Word file or in a text file. You can send it by email even to the people who are going to be in the virtual group. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, otherwise, I guess you could turn a camera onto the question that's typed.
Charlie, there's two things that come to mind, and Alan, thank you very much. Love those ideas. But in virtual, let's say you're using Zoom, you could pose the questions in the chat to everybody. So that's one way. And then I have an idea on the second way, but I've not tested it. So let me test it. But the other thing you could do is make sure that the questions are included with the invitation for the weekly email. You could actually copy and paste those into that weekly email reminder so that all the guys, when they participate virtually, their small group leader could say to them, you know, go take a look at your weekly email reminder. You'll find the small group discussion questions there. But let me I've got that other idea. Let me see if I can test it, and if it works, I'll email you on that.
Okay.
Through Zoom anyway.
Because basically, when we met in person, we used to leave the questions up, and so everybody would turn around and look at oh yeah, I'll take the second one, or okay.
Great. I'm just going to capture this question so I don't forget it. That's a good one. Other thoughts or questions you guys want to talk through?
Again, you did an amazing job, Brian.
Well, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. I also love that we're all bringing our collected wisdom to this. There was a suggestion made that it'd be good to gather people on a regular basis to have kind of these discussions with each other. And I love that suggestion. So I'm going to see if we can make that happen.
That's a good idea.
I've got a comment. Sometimes I'll watch the video ahead of time and include my wife. And I'm wondering if anyone, if that's been something that anyone does. My wife she's saying, well, how come you guys have all this good stuff and we're not included? And I think this is a good way to include, you know, the wives and have them be involved and encourage this to go further. And I wondered if there's any comments on that.
It looked like there were some people who were nodding when they said when you said, excuse me, Mark, that you watched the video with your wife.
Yes.
Do other guys do that, Charlie?
Yeah.
And
I'll ask my wife and say, hey, am I one of those? Do I do that type of thing? You know, she'll level with me and say, yeah.
You know, one of the things that we've come to the conclusion, and I hope it's not an erroneous conclusion, but we kind of see That Man Is You as more of a officer's training program as opposed to boot camp. And what I mean by that is that as the apostles were trained to lead as opposed to follow, I think the thing with That Man Is You, and what, I don't know if that was Steve's purpose or not, but going back to what we said earlier is that, you know, majority of the men aren't going to find immediate value. Over time, they will as they age through life and as they experience the downfalls. Because, when the thing we have to remember, I know when I was in my 30s and 40s and probably almost my 50, when you have no fear, when if you've been blessed with many blessings, financially and personally and family, you don't know pain, you don't know suffering. And until we experience suffering in whatever, it can be physical, it can be financial, it can be job. Until we experience loss, we cannot understand need for God's Spirit. And so when I go back to the officer's training, That Man Is You really provides, this answers the question about the wife, because I think I love watching with your wife, but we get the same thing. Why can't we do this with women? And my response to those wives is, you can. Please go out and start your program, because they should do it. And I think That Man Is You is the result of men doing the same thing. And I think, not to diminish, but That Man Is You program has a unique and special need for men, not at the expense of our wives, but at the enhancement of our strength. And I think in today's world, gentlemen, we see that too many of our brothers in their 40s have accepted their, we misunderstand equal rights or equal parity. Yes, we share with our families and our wives, but God has put us on this world to lead our families, not to share in the responsibility. The responsibilities are truly unique with the husband and the wife, but the husband has the burden to protect the family. The wife has a burden to manage the family. So I think this is what we have found out, is that That Man Is You program is, again, a reaffirmation of lonely challenges that we must accept and continue on in life. And our wives, I agree, there would be a good program, but I don't know that Man Is You it needs to be a separate program, I think, Brian.
Good thoughts. Here's what I would say. I think having the women go through That Man Is You with the men changes the milieu to where men can't focus on issues that I would say for men are very personal for them, and sometimes the wives may not be in touch with exactly how personal they are. I can't tell you how many guys I've talked to that are struggling with the pain of regret. They're trying to shed the shackles of regret for the things that they did when they did not understand what authentic male leadership was. That can be actually embarrassing for a guy to share with his wife, or at least I've had men tell me that. So I don't want you to think I'm saying it's a universal. Some guys can do that very well. And so we found that creating an environment where men can be men with other men and develop a brotherhood of support, encouragement, and empowerment allows men to go back to their families, to their wives and their families, and be better men. At the same time, we found that men watching the videos with their wives, just within that context with them as a couple, is a very powerful experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I would never discourage that by any stretch of the imagination. When it comes to how come something like That Man Is You isn't available for women, That Woman Is You, let's say, on our end, it's a much more practical answer. We've had a program in development forever called She Shall Be Called Woman. And here's the thing that people don't know about Steve and Shelley Bowman, and I think Steve and Shelley would be okay with me sharing this. Shelley is not blessed with the gift of presenting. Steve is. How do you do a woman's program that's presented solely from the standpoint of a man or by a man? And so they've actually, together as a couple, have been piloting the She program out of their home. I've been with the ministry for what, 5 years now? 6? So since I've been involved, they've been working on that. And they've got a group of between 40 and 50 women that meet every week when they do it. I think they have breaks throughout the year. And it is powerful. But the issue is it's not presented by the woman.
Right.
And they're still struggling to get the content right. And part of that's because Shelley is the driver of the content and Steve's the one who presents it at these, what you might call product development sessions, if you put it in vernacular terms, in secular terms. So please understand that as a ministry, we are not without knowledge of the need for the women, but we also don't want to put something out there that isn't going to be authentic and effective. And when they're ready, we'll put it out. It's not ready yet. Okay, I see a comment from Tom. My wife often says that she's tired of seeing these meek men in our culture. She wishes men should lead and be men. Amen. I appreciate that comment. Gentlemen, what else for today?
It's funny you should mention that, because I had many women in our parish come up to me and say, why don't you have a woman? Is there a woman's, that man is woman? And I said, well, I know they're working on it.
That man is woman. That's hilarious. I love that. Alan?
Yeah, Brian, just one real quick question, because this has been great. I'm working on the email to the DRE right now with the videos and the marketing piece. Where do I grab the link for them to register?
Oh, sure. Let me show you that again.
Throw that up in front again.
Yep.
Because you got me fired up on this thing. So here's the thing. I'm not the supposed to be the overall lead in our group. The overall lead is having some issues going on right now. I'm more or less kind of like a coordinator of multiple men's ministry at the parish.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for stepping in.
Nothing official about it. Nothing official. Well, it has to get going. And that's just the thing. I've been prompting the individual, and we're down to down to go time. So.
Wonderful. And then while I'm doing this, Alan, Tom, I want you to know I see your second comment regarding your wife and other programs. So thank you. Okay, so if you go to the Paradisa Stay homepage, Alan, which is what I've got up on the screen, right above Paradisa Stay, there's a link that says find a group, register for a class. So you click on that, and then tell me the city name again.
Yep, Dunedin. D-U-N-E-D-I-N.
D-U-N?
N-E-D-I-N.
D-I-N. Sounds like something out of a Lord of the Rings type.
Well, it is Gaelic for Edinburgh.
Okay, there you go. All right,
we're a Scottish town. You
do the city, the state, you click search, and then what happens is the map changes and you scroll down.
And you get the parishes and the Our Lady of Lourdes.
That's you here? San Salvador Drive? Okay, so you click that, and then this is the screen that gives them a chance to register. So when you're on this screen, you would just go up to the top and grab the URL.
Right. Okay. Fabulous.
Wonderful.
Because I'm halfway through putting this together to them.
Good work.
They only work half a day today, so I got to get him quick. I want him to post that first one today on the parish Facebook page.
No, that'd be great.
Hey, Alan, if your Bishop Parks still your
he was yours.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, no, he was our not a pastor, but our parochial vicar. He was our priest at one time. Tell him Charlie Blancato says hello.
Yeah, like I see him. First I have to look up. This is the tallest bishop in the Catholic Church. He's what, 6'8" or 6'10", something like that.
Well, his brother is also now been anointed bishop.
Well, no, his brother. It's still coming.
Right.
Not
yeah.
Yet.
He will be.
Yep.
That's great.
So.
Well, guys,
I had a chance to. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to pass on. I had a chance to meet with him, and he had a guffaw statement, and my wife took him to task. And I don't think he wants to talk to me anymore. I mean, This isn't a one-on-one, just flat out with the pastor sitting there.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Well, he's a great guy. So I'm sorry, this is just a little side, haha, you know. You know, every diocese has their bishop's pastoral appeal kind of thing. Our Knights of Columbus, under my tutelage, sold a building and gave the parish $300,000. So the bishop, when he was announcing the bishop's pastoral appeal for the next year, some of the people asked, why is our assessment up $50,000 this year over last year? And he said, well, since the Knights of Columbus donated $300,000, you took in more. So there's this equation I don't control. That was taken wrong. You know, my Knights are saying to me, we shouldn't have given them the money. My wife goes over and just tells them, you missed the point. Yeah. So, sorry. Maybe a sheep program would really work at our parish.
Well, I think something like that would work in a lot of parishes. So, so gentlemen, one final call. I'm happy to stay on as long as it's helpful to you. Anything else that you'd like to talk through here this morning?
This is fabulous. Thank you. I'll be seeing you later this afternoon.
You got it. And guys, as I said last night, you know, this isn't a one and done. If I can be a further help to you, let me know. We have a repeat of these in terms of live, not a recording. We're going to do another live session for each of the 3 help sessions that we have next week. And then, you know, we'll also be looking into that suggestion that I think George made, that it'd be great to gather core team leaders, you know, periodically to have these kind of conversations. So when we make plans on that, we'll let you know.
Yep. One thing I might suggest, Brian, and think about it, not within maybe these sessions, but how the core team should pass around the leadership, the overall top slot. Because in our case, because of 2 cases of cancer, we went through 2 leaders at the top, and then the third one, job opportunity, took him out of state. So now the core team is like, nobody on the core team now has been in that lead position, period. Mm-hmm. And there tends to be, it falls to one person, but if that one person steps back, boom, that's kind of the reason why I'm stepping in for the moment, trying to develop that leader. But
I think, Alan, that would be a great conversation for one of those sessions with other core team leaders from around the country, because that's a question we get asked frequently. And there's nothing that we can do from, I was joking with Mark. I was joking with Mark Hartfield the other day. We're now calling it TMIY Global Headquarters, just to be ridiculous. But from global headquarters, you know, to program that, we can make suggestions, but ultimately each parish has to figure out how the rotation of leadership happens. And in some parishes, you know, so last night, for the guys who were on, you saw Jim Unson. Jim is my core team leader. Jim has struggled with that. Right now, Jim is a core team of practically one person. And he's called me up and said, you know, Brian, what do I do about this? How do I get other guys involved? Other times, Jim's had a core team of 8 people. You know, and for a while, Jim wasn't the leader. Somebody else was the leader. And so even in my own group, there's been a struggle with that very issue. Part of it has to do with available, you know, headcount. Part of it has to do with, you know, time. You know, Jim jokes, he's retired. He's like, I got nothing better to do with my time, you know? And so it's definitely an issue. I wish I had a perfect solution, but I think if we open it up to your peers, you know, and you heard what they were doing, that might give you better ideas.
Exactly. A best practices kind of discussion.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Well, and it's kind of like, you know, I hear there's a sales guy on the call, you know, ABS, always be selling. I would say you always have to look at your succession plan as a core team. That would be one of my encouragements, that, you know, always developing guys, building the relationship. And then my encouragement to core teams, I'm not a program coordinator, but when I go and visit them, I say, you know, are you inviting men onto the core team? Is that, you know, on an annual basis, is that something that you're doing? Yeah. And then there are some people on core teams that feel tired. I mean, it's just that, you know, that burden of leadership. Are you allowing the men who have served, like, think about the breakfast cruise, for crying out loud, they're the backbone of these things. They get there early, they're putting in the work. Are you saying to them, hey, would you like a year off? Would you like to just participate, without the burden of preparing? It's interesting when you do the invitation, that's when you realize how burned out guys are. And so that always be recruiting, always be, trying to call forth new talent onto the core team, we found to be a good practice. It's easier said than done, of course.
Fabulous. Thank
Good.
you.
Good idea.
Okay, gentlemen, I wish you a wonderful weekend. Again, this recording will probably be available on our website this afternoon if you want to revisit any of it. And, any new ideas come up, drop me a line, give me a call. This is our focus here, for the next couple months. So I thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you. Peace be with you.
Likewise.